Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Business Spotlight. I, of course, am Scott McMeans with Action Coach, and I'm here with Jeffrey Myers of DS Architecture. And we're going to talk about his story of being an intern all the way to being the CEO and now owner of an architectural firm, the core foundation of what that firm is all about, and how Jeffrey has been able to incorporate himself and his team into a new direction. So, with that, Jeffrey, if I could, the microphone and the camera are yours. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Scott. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we have a somewhat of a unique journey. As Scott mentioned, I started as an intern while still in college. At the end of the first week, Dave Sommers, who's the founding partner and where DS and DS Architecture comes from, went home and told his wife that I was too quiet and I would never make it. Uh, so I like to start there because that is the beginning of my journey. Um, Dave Sommers believes that projects or people matter more than projects and profit. And I had a lot of opportunities coming out of school. The economy was very good. And I could tell in the interview with Dave that he wanted to get to know me as a person and he could teach me the skill sets I needed to be successful from a technical standpoint. Where the other firms I interviewed at really focused on what could I do and didn't care about who I am. So I actually took less pay to start with Dave. Got to a point after 6.5 years where I actually left the firm. I wanted to go to a bigger firm. I wanted to work on bigger projects. Dave Sommers had focused on very small projects, lots of actually yum brands, Pizza Huts, Taco Bells, Dunkin's. And I learned how the architectural process worked through running those projects, which was amazing as a young professional getting to actually run a project. I left for a year and a half. I actually wrote a letter called Quitter I gave to Dave. Because I didn't think I'd be emotionally strong enough to tell him in person all the things. I didn't want to miss anything. We hugged. I gave him my key. I left. I went to a big firm as their director of design. Got to work on some amazing projects. 6 months in, I got a check from Dave Sommers for one half of my bonus because I had helped him for one half of the year make the most money in the history of the firm. And so he just sent me a check out of the blue and wrote, "Hey, this is for you. You earned it. If you would have stayed, you'd have got the whole thing," which is kind of like a little, "Hey, come on back anytime." A year and a half into it, I'm not going to get into the full story, but had the culture wasn't where I wanted it at this large firm. The design wasn't where I wanted it. The collaboration wasn't where I wanted it. But I got to work on really cool projects. But I decided to put my 2 weeks in without a job because there was some conflict with the owner. I called Dave Sommers, very much a father figure to me, the biggest mentor I've ever had. And I said, "Hey, Dave, I'd like to get dinner or lunch. Haven't seen you in a couple months." He goes, "When can you start?" And I said, "How do you know? How did you know?" And he said to me, "You can come back under one condition, that you become my partner." And so that's where I became partner. And it was a 10-year transition between Dave and I to transfer full ownership. And we've grown the firm, or I've helped grow the firm from a business development marketing standpoint. So when I came back, Dave was like, "Hey, you grow the firm and I'll manage the firm." I had the personality type to do that, even though after the first week, he told me I was too quiet.
Oh,
fast
that's
forward,
crazy.
fast forward 8 years, he's like, "Hey, go out, go out and meet people." So we've been able to grow the firm from 4 to 20 people. We were in a relatively rural Portage County out of Kent, Ohio. We are now in downtown Cleveland on the corner of Huron and Prospect. Me and my director of design, Eric Prose, set the firm on a direction to become the premier culture-based design firm in Northeast Ohio and beyond. And I will unequivocally say we are the premier culture-based design firm in Cleveland, and we're one of the top 3 design firms in Cleveland. So it's been a heck of a journey. We've gone from $300,000 in revenue to 3.2 million in revenue. So I have a long story, so ask away.
That's fantastic. And there's so much here. Great story. Um, I want to talk about culture because at DS Architecture, culture seems to be a prevailing foundation. And you made comment that you were at a location that you didn't like the culture so much so that you quit without gainful employment. So if you can describe the culture at DS Architecture and why it's so important to you.
Yeah, so Simon Sinek, a great business coach, a very popular TED Talks, uh, kind of drew a diagram once, and I was like, that's what I'm trying to do. And he started with this concept of the why. Why,
Hmm.
why do you make? And he used the example of iPhones versus Samsung. And so it's why, how, what. And if you start with why, you always get to the what. In our case, architectural design excellence, if we start with the why. Our why is inspiring together. I don't believe in going to get projects. It is nice. We do that. But our number one pipeline is talent. And we are after the top talent in Cleveland. And in order to do that, you have to create an environment of culture where they want to be. So Simon Sinek said, start with the why. I actually put another circle inside that. So you could think of a ripple of a wave. In the very center of that ripple, where the stone hit the water, is the who. Who we are is more important than anything. And it goes back to Dave's Sommers philosophy that people will matter more than projects and profit. Projects and profit will come if you have the right people. So we have 5 core values that define us. I'll try to do the 30-second version. Fairness. We say our way is fair and benefits all concerned. We call it the built environment. Architecture. We're creating spaces for people who aren't even born yet. And we want that to be the emphasis of great design. When things get difficult in the design process, construction process, remember you're creating something that's going to outlive you. Trustworthiness is our second core value. And it's not about trusting Jeff or DS Architecture. It's about us trusting everybody around the table during the design process, from an intern to the CEO of a large law firm, to the fiscal officer, to an end user that could be a patient in a hospital. They all have this same project in the center of the table. They have different points of view, and we want everybody to trust that they can be vulnerable with their opinions. Third core value is conviction. Architectural process is linear in some ways, but it always gets derailed. How do we find the positive in that moment of confusion, of turmoil, bring it to the table? Let's talk about it. Collaboration. We are unabashedly collaborative. Everybody in the firm must participate in the design process. Some firms are very linear and don't encourage overlap project staff. We do. The last one, and the most important to me, is commitment to knowledge. Always learning and always teaching. We ask everybody in the firm to be involved in some outside organization. Could be the American Institute of Architects. Me personally, I'm involved in several, but NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, Greater Cleveland, is where I spend. I'm on the executive board there. I have a unique opportunity because I'm hashtag proudly bipolar. I've had a long journey of through a manic episode. And I won't get into the great details of bipolar, but I spent 3 stints in the mental health spa, also known as a psych ward. I have attempted suicide twice. This is about 10 to 12 years ago, very stable now. And so I give my time and talent to that organization, and others have other organizations, maybe their church, maybe Architectural Review Board, maybe NAOP, etc. So I have an opportunity to use the platform of being a CEO of a mid-sized architectural firm to break the stigma that people with neurodivergence can only be part of society. I say people with neurodivergence are very unique individuals that can really help lead society. So those are our core values. That's the culture.
Okay, lots to unpack here. And
Yeah,
I appreciate your vulnerability and participating in one of your core values, which is trustworthiness. So thank you for your trust.
yeah,
Um, I appreciate where you're coming from in the comments about your journey. And I would assume it's not an easy thing to do. But if anything, it highlights, Jeff, your commitment to the core values and how you treat yourself among others that are treating you the same way. That is an unbelievable environment. And I appreciate where you come from. And I thank you for talking to me about it, because I know it's got an interesting stigma, and you seem to have been very comfortable with it, because it's not necessarily only a part of you, but it's defined you for a while, and now
yeah,
you're able to move forward with it, and
that's correct.
that's it's amazing.
Yeah,
Um, Interesting journey, interesting concept. I've looked over your website. I gotta be honest with you. There's so many people, and trying to fit, okay, who does what, because they all have interesting titles, right?
yeah,
But now it makes sense. No, and I'm going to bring this up because you made the comment about collaboration. Now I understand why there's different people with different titles that all seem to be the same, because collaboration, and the comment you made was everybody must participate in every project.
yeah,
So you have a universal perspective that is broken up by individuals that contribute because you make the project better. There's so many different perspectives on it. That's
Yeah.
that's that's unique. I would assume that's unique to the architectural firm.
I can't speak for other firms. I can only speak to the other firm I went to, which was not the case. But yes, I will tell you that top talent in Cleveland are seeking us out, wanting to join us because of the ability to participate in all projects in some capacity, in all parts of the process. Right, there are 6 parts to the architectural process, and we demand and want everybody to work in all 6 parts of the process. Where some firms really focus you on one of the 6 parts, if you will. So.
And so, with that being said, my next question is what separates you from all the other firms in the area? And we've spent the last couple minutes defining what is that special thing that separates you, your core values, the people, the talent that you have on board, and your philosophical approach to the process, which again has 6 parts, like you said, but it's so much more than just 6 parts. It's the contribution you get from the individual and the talented individuals on your team.
Correct.
Okay,
I would add one other differential
please.
is we at the beginning of the architectural process, there out of the 6 steps, the first 2 are kind of conceptual, theoretical sketches, ideas, and we go in when we interview with clients or repeat clients. I promise them one thing: we will be over budget at the end of the second phase, because we will not let a perceived idea of what something costs self-negotiate itself out of the project. We need to explore and put all the ideas on the table, come up with an idea that a concept that encompasses everything. And from there, the budget can help us make decisions on what to take out of the project. So I would say that's a unique value proposition. We're going to over design
Mm-hmm.
at our cost and bring it back down. Clients love that because they're not self-negotiating something out of the design, right? And when they try to, and sometimes when my staff tries to, I remind them, let's dream for the stars. We have a moment in time where we'll rectify the ideas with the budget. So that's very unique to us.
I would say that's unique, not only to you as a design firm, but that's unique in a philosophical business approach, which is you only have one opportunity to create something beautiful.
Yeah,
Why would you sacrifice it by limiting it to $1 figure or another? Let's create magic and let it
yeah,
and let it unfold in front of
yeah,
us.
yeah,
That's pretty interesting.
yeah.
Um, you've had an interesting run now that you are the leader of a firm, you're the CEO and you own the business. How would you describe the differences between what it was like to be a contributor versus now that you're at the helm?
What is the differences? So as the leader, I've talked a little bit about my journey. I can only promise the world one thing: I will move Earth 1 inch closer to good than when I found it. Um, as a leader, I get to inspire people. I get to create vacuums for them. I get to get them thinking about their next 10-year path, not just their 10-year goals, but the path of the next 10 years, and create a vision of where they can take their own career. So an example would be Eric Prose, our director of design. He came to us at a college, had a lot of job offers at, we were still a small firm. And I sold him on this idea of growth. We're going to grow the firm culturally, professionally. I'm going to get to do new things. You get to do new things. We're never going to get stagnant. And he goes, well, I'd like to become director of design. And I said, well, we're pretty small for having a director of design. Why don't you come up with a 10-year plan? Every year, list 5 things you want to accomplish over the next 10 years and bring us to become the premier culture-based design firm. And so every year for 10 years, he came to his annual conference or annual performance, we call it conversation, and check, check, check. And we
Mm.
went from doing Pizza Huts to doing a floating building on a barge for the Cleveland Metro Parks. We're doing a visitor center for ODNR in Appalachian Hills. We're doing new civic campus for the city of Portland. And he's driven us that design. I provide the culture and he provides the design. But the thing I love about being the leader is creating a vacuum to
Ooh,
develop, to allow a person to develop themselves and offer them safe autonomy. Let them take a step they're not comfortable with. Let them, quote, fail. Pick them up. Nobody fails in this company more than me. Pick me up. Now it's a learning opportunity. That's all it was. It was not a failure. It was a learning opportunity. So that's the biggest difference between being a team member and the leader, is creating the vacuum for people individually too. the vacuum for the company, but the vacuum for the individual.
Outstanding. The concept of creating a vacuum, it's been articulated a number of different ways, but never as articulate and clever as the way you've just articulated it. So I
Thank you.
appreciate that. That's something people I really believe that they can sink their teeth into. We spend a lot of time when we're coaching our individual clients about culture, the vision, the mission, the culture. That all comes from the leader or the owner of
It
the
does.
business. That has to be the center stage for everything to kind of hang off of. And if it's not inspiring and it's not allowing for people to contribute with, it becomes very difficult for people to want to contribute. One of the core elements that we push a lot is support risk taking,
Yes.
right? If you have a talented group of people with the authority, the autonomy, and the accountability to do certain things with you, they will do everything they can for you.
Amen,
And
man.
that to me, sorry,
Amen. You're
yeah, it's
preaching it. That's amazing. That's well said.
yeah, and to me, it's one of those things where you can tell somebody what to do, and after the 114th time they've been told what to do, okay, I got it. But
Yeah.
if you ask them what's a better way to do it, they'll come up
Right.
with 115 different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And one of them is going to be better than what they do right now.
Yeah.
So
And one
listen to your team.
and they're going to be probably out of 114, I would say 30 to 100 of them are going to be better than what I thought. So yeah, that's where the
Well,
magic happens.
and I find it interesting. And I love these types of conversations, Jeff, because we have business owners out there that think the only way to do something is my way because I built this. And what they fail to recognize is there's a whole experience underneath them that their team is doing every day. And they've all thought of, God, if we only did this, I could do this 15 minutes sooner.
Yeah.
And I probably will do it better, but they won't let me try it.
Yeah.
But if you just turn that around, instead of having a checkout session where you go and see what you check out what everybody's doing and turn it into a check-in, which
Yeah.
is, hey Jeff, what are you working on? How's it going? What can be improved on this? Give
Yeah.
me your thoughts. You've just opened a whole new diagram or a whole new conversation that never would have existed if you were just, for lack of a better word, cracking a whip, expecting people to get things done.
Yeah.
So I commend you on this.
Every quarter, we have our frontline drivers meet with their staff, and the first thing they have to ask is what two things could I or DS architecture be doing better for you? And I meet with
Yeah.
everybody at our annual conversation. What two things could we be doing better, right? It
Mm-hmm.
gives them ownership, right? The other thing I would say as a leader that was interesting, and we're talking about the kind of leader that is more dictator, right? Is there are many types of leaders. There's the dictator, which is the person that has to make the hard decision. There's a time and place for that. There's a laissez-faire leader that surrounds themselves with great people, provides the resources they need, and gets out of the way. And then there's a democratic leader. The majority takes us where we need to. You have to be all three. You just have to know when to play which part. Um, and
Kudos.
then the other thing when you become that leader is you can stop being the funnel that every decision has to go through in a company. If you are the funnel, you're living a self-fulfilled prophecy where you will not grow because you are the
Yeah.
limiting factor. Yeah.
Yeah, again, if you give people the authority, the accountability, and the autonomy to do things, they'll blow you away with what they're capable of.
Sorry about that. I don't know if you heard
That's
our
okay.
office dog.
That's perfect. I love it. I love it. So I'm thinking about all the different things we talked about so far. I really appreciate you opening up on this. I'm curious to listen to the lessons that you want people to know you've learned over the years. We've talked about some challenges. We've talked about your leadership style and the way you've created a culture is phenomenal off of the tree of Dave Sommers. I'm curious, what are some of the lessons that you want to share with the audience so they can maybe tap into and say, yep, I've been going through it and it is a solvable problem. I just need to look at it differently.
Well, there's so many topics. I guess I'll talk about a failure, a big failure of mine,
Mhm.
and how I learned from that. The firm is about 20 people. We were as large as 33 at one time. I had grown the firm too fast without the processes in place for growth. And we started to lose the DS architecture quality of design and technicality. We were able to land a lot of big projects, but the processes weren't there. And so for the first time ever, I had clients calling in have heartburn about the process we're going through. And so couple things happened. One is we lost a large project, which when you lose a big section, I'm
Mhm.
talking about a quarter of the firm revenue was in this one project. You have to look at it as an opportunity to cut the fat, right? The people
Mhm.
that it's hard to do that part, right? That's the hard part of being the leader is letting people go. But when you let somebody go, you're doing it in the best interest of them. It's probably the best thing for them and for the firm. So we did that. And then we actually decided to shrink even smaller so we could reinvent ourselves with processes.
Mhm.
So we are now a 20-person firm making as much money as we did when we were a 28-person firm because
Really?
our processes allow us to focus on architecture and not all the sand, if you will, if you ever heard the analogy about a glass full of, and you have sand, pebbles, rocks, and
Mhm.
water. If you put the water in, then the sand, then the pebbles, then the rocks, they won't fit. But if you put the rocks in first, then the sand and you shake it, then the pebbles. And the point is the sand is the emails. The sand is the pebbles are the project deadlines, but the rocks are the most important things to growth. Uh, so you need to have a well-developed plan with critical achievements that look into the future, and you have to keep yourself and your team accountable to achieving those things.
Awesome. I mean, there's so many ways to take this, but that is the analogy I think everybody can visualize is the rocks, the pebbles, the sand, then the water, because you can see it filling in the
Yeah,
gaps. And to your point, the gaps are all those things that are unnecessary right now.
yeah,
They're not important, not urgent, but you do them. Why do you do them? And I guarantee you, when you ask this question, everybody will say, because it's easy.
yeah,
And what does that mean to you, Jeff? When somebody says it's easy, that's another word for saying it's comfortable.
yeah,
I don't have to stretch myself to do that stuff,
yeah.
right?
And it's something we talk about in our interview process. You have to be the type of person that wants to stretch yourself, right? So
Yeah.
we're upfront about that. Mark Twain, and I'm going to mess up the quote a little bit, but he said, if you wake up and you have a frog for breakfast, you should eat that frog. And if you have two frogs, you should eat two frogs. Nobody likes eating frogs, but if you eat the frog in the morning, then you have the rest of the day to not worry about eating the frogs. And the
Correct.
frog is the biggest, most important thing. Attack it first, and the rest of the day is easier. So
Correct.
that's what I tell people.
I love it. No, it's why procrastinate when you're right there. And the same concept, what's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. But
That's
the
right.
longer you wait to bite, the longer it takes to eat the elephant. Just get
Yeah.
after it. Get
Yeah. I
after
always
it.
don't live the pain twice. Don't live the pain of I have to do that sometime today. And then you have to live the pain of actually doing it. Just live the pain of actually doing it, get it over with, and then the pain is gone. Right.
Yeah, we actually manage some of our clientele with the idea of a frog sheet,
Oh yeah,
right?
interesting. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. I love that idea.
Yeah. So every day, what's your frog?
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
And you brought up some good stuff too. For us, when I meet with my clientele, I ask five questions. What worked this week? What didn't work this week? What did you learn? What will you never do again? And how are we going to make money next week?
that is awesome.
If you can think your way through that and you know, all right, I got to have those questions right. I have to answer those questions. You're not worrying about the frog. You are the guy that's consuming the frog every day because you
Yeah.
know I have to answer those questions. And
Yeah.
it just brings people to that accountability level where, all right, I can't just keep pushing this off. I can't just keep letting this slide. I got to get it done. And when they
Yeah.
get it done, guess what? It's out of the way and they can move forward and they can grow.
And they have a sense of accomplishment, right? Like that's yeah.
Well, what's the old naval admiral that gave that amazing speech that
Oh
said,
my gosh, I love that speech.
"Yeah, every morning just get up and make your bed."
Make your
Why?
bed.
Because you've accomplished something.
Yeah.
You've accomplished something of merit. You've done something, and all day you don't have to worry about your bed because when you get home, you have a fresh, nice, tight bed you can climb into and fall asleep. Just
Yes.
make your bed in the morning.
Yeah. That speech is amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I have a couple questions for you to kind of finish. Um, what, if anything, would you want to tell the audience that is the most inspirational thing you've ever heard or been a part of?
The most inspirational thing I've ever heard or been a part of. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Dave Summers came over one day and stuck a poem that Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote and put it on and pinned it to my desk. And I was just become partner. And the poem is called Success.
Mm.
And he just pinned it. He goes, "That's you. That's what you do. It's your core." And generally speaking, success, according to the poem, could be a garden patch. It could be a child. It could be a reformed social condition. And I pick reformed social condition through the ability to break down the stigma. And so when he put that into words for me, and there's like 30 things that the poem lists as success, I realized that success is not defined by society, but by the individual. And you get to tell yourself what success is. And it can literally be a garden patch that you keep, you grow, you feed your family, whatever it might be. That's success. Don't let society tell you what success is or not. I'm societal successful, but I don't care about that. I'm successful because I am living the journey I want to live.
Fantastic answer. Thank you so much for that. Um, Last question. If you were to sit down on a park bench next to the 18-year-old Jeffrey Myers,
Oh man.
what would you say to him?
Wow. Okay. I've told you a little bit of my journey and the suicide
Mm-hmm.
attempts and the psych ward. I would tell him that the journey is going to be long. There's going to be ups and downs, that the mountaintops can't be as high, the valleys aren't as low, and that, yes, it will work out. It always works out. And when you get to the point, when you get through that journey, that's going to be difficult, you will have changed the world, that you have inspired individuals. And get off the bridge, Jeff. Just walk to the bottom of the bridge. And that's what I would tell him.
Outstanding. Jeff, I appreciate your candor. I treasure your trust. And I want to thank you for being a part of the podcast today. This is the single most inspirational and emotional business spotlight series I've done. And I appreciate you for being a part of it. And I appreciate you for sharing with me and the audience what I believe is an amazing story.
God, I appreciate it. It's been an honor. I love telling the story. I feel like I have the most amazing opportunity, and I'm so blessed I have it. So thank you very much for letting me share my story.
My pleasure. We'll see everybody on the next episode of the Business Spotlight.